Today I want to teach you how to make a key lime pie mead in my fashion. So let's get started. So today's recipe is a key lime pie mead. I've had an incredible key lime pie mead from my buddy Larry, who you'll see later in this video. He kind of inspired me to attempt my own version. So I started with this recipe card you see on screen. You'll see some elements here that are not normal for mead making, mostly the malts. In order to get a more crust-like profile, I wanted to try using some grains or malts. And so we made part of this into a little bit of a beer, to be honest. So you'll see that on the recipe card, you'll see, of course, key lime zest. You'll see some lactose to help this with some creaminess, some feel like that, and some other elements there. So I know lots of people are like, well, I know this has grain in it. I don't want to do that. I'd rather go an alternative route. So I'm going to also include, I'm not showing you how to make it, but this is my buddy Larry's recipe, the one who inspired me to make this. He doesn't use any grains. He uses, I think it was cinnamon and vanilla and like combo to get a crust-like profile. And we'll taste said mead that he's used or done like that in the end of this video. We'll kind of side by side them. For my version, you're gonna get that recipe card. You're gonna make a partial grain or mash base, meaning that you need to get the grains, you need to get them milled. If you have the ability to, you should. Well, you have to in order to do this. Put them in a bag, a brew bag, or do this in some other way. And essentially you're gonna mash the grains, I believe at 150. So you're gonna mash those grains for about an hour. It's not a lot of water. On my recipe card, I include a 1 gallon brew. You'll notice that the amount of water that you're mashing for your base is only like a 1/4 gallon, which is nothing. So here's the problem. If you're doing this in a pot or something, you're gonna have a really small pot. I'd recommend doing this in a larger batch so you can use maybe about a gallon of water for your mash base, and then later on you'll add more. Essentially, you wanna make sure that the grains are staying submerged, are mashing at the right temperature for an entire hour. These grains in conjunction should hopefully highlight some honey character, honey malt, but then also get that crust profile. And we're gonna kind of try to get there in a second. So you create this wort base, which is about 1/4 of your liquid content. You then combine that, your 1/4 gallon or 1/4 amount of your wort base with water, 75% water, so 25% wort base, 75% water, and your honey. When you combine those three things, that should bring the temperature down. It should also hopefully get you up to a starting gravity of roughly, for this one, I was pretty hot. It was about 1090, which if you wanted to make this lighter, you can do that. But 1090 starting gravity is where I started. All of the key lime, spices, and all those elements are gonna come later on. We're gonna ferment just this portion. I'm using the Saf US-05, which is an ale yeast, very good for lots of fermentations, very clean. So we added that in, we took our starting gravity reading, we added a little bit of nutrient up front because this is gonna need some help, and we let it start fermenting. It took about 2 weeks for this to ferment through the primary with all of those things. At that point, when I noticed it clear up, I took another gravity reading. Our gravity was roughly about 1.005-ish, if I remember correctly. And this is because the grains in there have some non-fermentable sugars. So if you do anything with beer or wort base, sometimes you'll have a fermentation that does not end at 1.000, which is an important note. It was a little bit sweet, which is fine. We then racked it into a new container. We went ahead and we stabilized it. This recipe has a still version and a carbonated version. Although I will say that the carbonated version is 10,000 times better than the still, in my opinion. We are force carbonating this. This would be very, very hard, almost impossible to do in a bottle carbonated version, in my opinion. With this stabilized, we went ahead and added quite a few things. We added lots of key lime juice. I literally went and bought key lime themselves and cut them up, juiced them. So it was roughly, I want to say, a cup to a cup and a half of key lime juice. We added about 5 or 6 key lime zest in a little hop cage, so I could just put it on in there and pull it out when I felt like the flavor was there. We let those things sit for a week or so. We wanted to ensure that those flavors were gonna work well. We came back, we pulled the zest out. We added lactose, which is gonna help with that creaminess, that mouthfeel. We added honey to back sweeten. And we also added a bunch of spices, and you saw that on the recipe card. I put my spices in a hop cage. You could do it in a little cheesecloth or something. I recommend to do this sometimes, especially if you're using small things, so you can just pull it out. It's just easier. So we added all of those spices in there. We let those sit in there for another week. So our timeline here is like 4 or 5 weeks, roughly. And then at that point, it was time to do the little curve. Okay, well, do I want to bottle carbonate it, or do I want to carbonate it, or do I want to leave it still? I have a still version, which is fine. It's missing some important elements. And then the carbonated version is actually right here. To force carb this, you put it into a keg and you put it under pressure for, a couple days, 30 PSI for 2 or 3 days, and it will be force carbed. For the still version, you literally just rack it into a new container or bottles, and there you got it. Final gravity on this guy is like 1.030, or maybe a little higher than that. This is because lactose adds some sugar content. Honey, of course, adds sugar content there. And this needs that sugar because the key lime is a little bit tart. The spices are there. This has all the characters we want. We use the wort base to give us the crust. The spices help with the crust and give it some more of that pie flavor. The vanilla, I forgot to mention, also gives some of that. The lactose gives some creaminess. Honey to back sweeten, it's got all of the characters we want there. So you've walked through the process with me. We're gonna go to the tasting now with Larry, the guy who inspired me to do this, and we're gonna taste his version and my version. So again, I'll put up both recipe cards. You'll notice that there's a lot of things happening here. I'm not even gonna include a bottle carbonated version because it wouldn't be good. It just would not be good in my opinion. So here is mine and here is Larry's, and I hope you will try both or one of the recipes, but let's go to the tasting and see what these taste like. Here we are for the tasting. I have Larry, I'm gonna say inspiration for my attempt at a key lime pie mead, because he himself has made a very good key lime pie mead we're gonna talk about in a second. But welcome, Larry. Happy to steal you for a little bit of time in your life.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So this is kind of a time warp situation because Larry and I have been here. We are actually in person doing this exact same thing back at Mead Stampede. Mead Stampede was months and months ago. I had created this key lime pie mead with some little bit different moves and things about it, and we tried both of ours. Larry has his own version, and I'll make sure and show you on screen Larry's recipe, and you're gonna hear us talk about it here in a second. And I had made my own with some tweaks of maybe too much malt and blah, blah, blah. So not quite the recipe card that we've walked through. But I want to jump to tasting Larry's mead first, and then we'll hop back and talk about my version with maybe some tweaks. So here's Larry's version and tasting. Welcome, Larry. Welcome to a weird room. We're at Mead Stampede right now. And this is just a little side room. Everybody's partying out there, so we came in here because it's a little easier. Larry, you inspired me to make a key lime pie mead, because I think I've had this one from you before.
Yeah, I entered it in Mead Stampede the first year.
Yes. So I definitely had it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because I placed second with it.
Was it this specific one? This batch?
No. It was the same recipe, different batch.
Okay.
I was doing some stuff later where I was experimenting with seeing if I could use like dried lime zest and some other stuff. Okay. But I made a control at the same time, and I happen to have a few of those bottles left over. But this one is about 2.5 years old.
So we're gonna start with tasting Larry's, and I'll put, if he's willing to give me his recipe card, I'll put his recipe card of what he did, because I want to show multiple ways to do this. There's not obviously one way to do a key lime pie mead. So let's crack yours open. And yours is going to be a lighter color for sure. You'll see mine's very different here in a second.
It's the other way. Yeah.
You like color?
2.5 years.
Larry's is going to be. Well, you'll see mine here in a second. 2.5 years.
Yeah.
That's good though. For it to even have any carb left.
Yeah, it's still, the smell is pretty.
Very lime, very spice. I get a lot of the...
but it's still, it still holds on to like what I remember it smelling like.
Yeah. There's a subtle vanilla on the nose too. I'm ready. Here we go. Oh.
Flavor hasn't held up quite as well, but it's still.
I feel like the lime might have, I don't know for sure because I don't remember the original, but I feel like the lime, has it gone down some?
Yeah, it's definitely faded. It's not nearly as sour, which is kind of strange because like I don't know how that happens.
Yeah. Maybe that's, it's interesting. Yeah, you get the limes there, you get the crust, because I think you use graham crackers, right?
No, it's I use an extract that's just, but not like, I used vanilla and cinnamon and a couple other things to make it taste like graham crackers.
Okay.
It was back before I was comfortable like putting graham crackers and stuff.
That was on the card too.
Yeah. There's no actual graham cracker. It's just lime juice, that extract, a lot of honey, and lactose.
Okay. This is good. So as you just saw, Larry's is, well, we don't know what mine tastes like yet, but the timing of that one with Mead Stampede, they were very different brews. I don't know how much you remember, Larry, but they were vastly different versions of key lime pie. I went back to the drawing board a little bit and said, okay, I need to change some things because I really liked Elements of Yours. And so I changed a few things, and that's what my recipe card we landed on is here. So now let's go ahead and open up my version. And I have no idea how carbonated yours is going to be. And mine's also in a can. So I think we'll be on equal playing field for carbonation. I've had
mixed... we got some.
Oh, good. I've had mixed
we got some
input about the amount of carbonation occurring. So
I haven't tried yet, but it looks good.
It's got something going on.
Plenty of bubbles.
So color-wise,
a bunch of bubbles.
Very well, I would say not very different. It's pretty different from the previous one. The previous one was like a brown, very amber color.
Yeah, it's a lot lighter.
This is lighter. And let's get some nose checks on it first. Tell me what you get.
I definitely still smell the malt.
Mm-hmm.
It's got like a gingerbread type smell almost.
So what I kind of did, in short, is I was probably 100% water-based within my malt, and the one you tried. This one's only 50%, so I used more water to hopefully temper down the amount of malt character it's getting. But yeah, I get a lot of breadiness on that, and there's definitely like a high acid, a little bit of that key lime thing. The vanilla's there, a little bit of that spice, like the gingerbread you're talking about. Shall we try it?
Sure.
Here we go.
It's nice.
I feel like a couple weeks sitting in a can or separate has maybe brought down some of that key lime, because I did dump a fair amount of key lime into this one in an attempt to bring that up, and it was almost too much at one point. What do you think?
It nails the crust.
Yep.
Like nails it. But I would say the lime's a little way less than I'd like.
Right. See, and I was worried because like even as I was putting this into a keg because it's carbonated, I dumped some more key lime in. I was like, I need more. And I felt a little crazy doing it because I was like, I don't know how hard to go, especially knowing carbonic acid is going to be cold. The assumption that that's going to raise the amount of lime flavor is going to rise up. And so I agree, though. I think
it just needs some zest.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've received some other feedback because I used a lesser amount of zest than I probably should have. A heavier dose of zest with the key lime juice would have been helpful.
Yeah, the crust character is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. Which that's in all of these like pastry style meads that I've done and you've done. That's one of the harder things to get right.
Right.
So that's encouraging.
There's a way
going forward.
Yeah.
I haven't found a whole lot. Like, some people will use malt, and this is the first one with malt in it that I've tasted that I actually thought really nailed that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time it ends up just tasting like beer.
Yeah, it's got like a braggot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really do think this nails the crust. I need a tiny bit more acid.
Yep.
And a lot more lime flavor.
So you think that, because I'm thinking about yours as well, you go pretty heavy zest and juice, correct?
Yes.
And are you using...
Yeah.
I did some key lime juicing with this, but then key limes being so small, it was so hard to get enough juice out of them that I resorted to that very, like, if you've ever looked key lime juice up, it's the whatever, like, people would know it.
No, that's what I use.
So
that's what I use. That juice.
Okay.
In fact,
he's like, I have it on hand.
Yeah, I knew right where it was.
There it is.
I'm making my version right now. Actually.
Heck yeah! Oh, that's fun.
Can't get it to focus with the background thing, but in front of my face it works.
So that one, that stuff's great. That stuff's great, and that's what I ended up resorting to, and I think it works well.
Yeah, it is. So for mine, I use that juice in secondary. And then the actual limes aren't key limes; they're just regular limes.
Oh, okay.
So the zest is regular limes, and I do have a little bit of regular lime juice.
Yep.
And then this in secondary to pump up the key lime.
Okay. Interesting. I honestly, I like that better, to not have to do the key limes, because they're hard to find. I had to go to a different grocery store than I normally go to, because they're not like that where Walmart and Target, stuff like that. Maybe at Target, but I had to go to a different place. So,
and like you said, they're small and
hard to zest.
They're small and they're hard to find.
Yeah, and hard to get juice out of. I mean, they're like this big, and you're trying to. It just does not work very well.
And it might be different if you were to like go and pick them off a tree, but the majority of people don't live in an area where you can do that.
Yeah.
So you're going to be getting the grocery store ones that have been traveling for 3 weeks or whatever, right? And they're just not going to be as good or easy to use. And this stuff tastes great.
Yeah, it's so easy too.
I've used it for. I use it for the key lime pie all the time. Like I said, this juice tastes good. It tastes really good, and it's pretty easy to find. I can find it at Walmart or Kroger most of the time. So
okay, I'll make sure and people will know what that name of that is, because that's kind of the way to go with this. So one interesting thing is I have shared this with some other people, and I've had mixed feedback. Some people have wanted, for example, our buddy Jake, Dogsick Fetch. He tried it. He said, the balance is a little heavy on the lime side of things in acid and flavor domination, and the malt character lingers on the finish for a minute after the sip. So it's all what I'm pointing to is I think a lot of this comes down to your preference of what a key lime pie might taste like, because some people are going to want that heavy key lime side and really lean into that. Some people are not going to want that as much and want more of the bread crusty profile and a light dusting of key lime. So for anyone who's interested, I'm going to put up the card again. This is my preference version, and with I'm kind of leaning on Larry's side as well, a little more key lime. The thing you have to do is adjust maybe the amount of key lime, and that's about it. The zest, the amount of juice, everything else I would say is a pretty solid base, because it provides everything you need, and then you can kind of tweak that variable, and that's easy because you just literally add more, taste it, and then if you need to add more, do that. That's the nice thing about this process. I'm encouraged to see and hear that you're making another one. I want to try yours at some point, because because I feel like Mead Stampede was such a whirlwind of trying things. Like I remember yours, but it was you know, a whirlwind. That was probably the best word for it.
And that one had been sitting for a really long time too. So like getting one that's you know, a little fresher might be different too. But yeah, I have kind of, I haven't had the time to brew stuff lately. So the key lime pie seemed like a good one. That one and community brew thing that we're doing for doing the most seemed like a good couple of things to, you know, get my feet wet again.
I love it. Well, so I'll put up for everybody, here's the Larry's recipe. Here's my recipe. If you're interested in making either or both or a combo, like maybe you experiment and you do a little bit of both side, you know, I think that's fun as well. But this is a fun recipe. These recipes are fun to try, and it is also up to personal preference. So kind of tweak things as you want. I do want to make sure and point you guys to Larry's neck of the woods, which is a very accessible, helpful Mead tool set, literally called meadtools.com, and it is or org. Am I right? .com.
It's .com.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Meadtools.com has calculators for nutrients, for recipes, for ABVs. It has blending calculators. It has literally everything you need, and so I'll make sure and put a link down to it below. Yeah. It's the one-stop shop right now. Yeah,
and by the time this video comes out, and I know for a fact that by the time this video comes out, because I'm releasing it Monday, the desktop app will be out. Hey. So look out for that. There's some new features coming up that I'm pretty excited about. So look out for the desktop app too.
All right. Well, even more exciting. So go check it out. Support Larry in his endeavors, because it's been, I know for a fact, I've watched him walk down this road. It has not been a smooth road. It's been a long journey because it's not simple. So you can support him by using the tool. And of course, if you want to talk to him about it, he has a Discord all about it. So if you get in there and you're like, hey, I love this thing, or, ooh, what about this? He's happy to hear those things and keep that conversation going. So Larry, thank you for your time. Thank you for inspiring me to make a key lime pie mead. And, you know, while I didn't make your exact version, I think that's the beauty of mead making, is you've inspired me. I kind of, I tweaked around a little bit and did some things, and it's still, we just get to live in these two different worlds, and it's fun. So,
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
All right, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.